Okay, so I'm about to introduce you to Rachel. Now, Rachel has some very specific concerns with her thin, fine hair. So what you're about to watch is a full consultation and haircut / styling process. There are no edits or anything in this video. I'm just gonna walk her through what's concerning her, how she can address it. We're gonna cut her hair, and you're gonna see all of it. I mean, heck, you honestly liked the last video like this so much that you made it the best performing video I have ever released on this channel. So how can I not bring you more? So with that said, let me introduce you to Rachel. What is happening?
Well, I'm 2 weeks out from a haircut.
Okay.
And it's kind of flat on the top. I get this triangle thing going on.
Okay.
and
Okay.
And I really do like the DIONNA bob that you like.
What do you like? Do you actually like the DIONNA bob? Or
Yeah, I do.
What do you like about it?
You can get this lift up here and then
Okay.
it comes down where I don't have this volume here, but you still see the jawline.
Okay.
But it's not dramatic.
Okay.
But I don't know, it just looks really nice.
Okay.
I just like that cut.
Good. What frustrates you about your hair right now? Like, what's your biggest kind of concern with it?
Well, I get a lot of volume, and this side bubbles out, and this side flips this way.
Okay.
And so it's kind of hard to make it balanced. I like symmetrical.
Okay. Okay.
I like symmetry.
Good.
And so
That's great.
Sometimes it's hard to accomplish that. And then I have a lot of these baby hairs up here.
Okay.
That I kind of mask with either some putty or hairspray.
Okay.
To get them up out of the way so they're not tickling my forehead.
Are these new or?
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, like, have you recently noticed that you're seeing those baby hairs, or is it something that has happened for a while?
It's happened for a while.
Okay.
And whenever I go and get a haircut, I don't know if they just get blended in better or if it's part of the texture grow out.
These look like new growth.
Okay, yeah.
They're quite short. So if you were going to texturize that, it would be such an aggressive texturizing to get them that short.
Okay.
It would be hard to think that people would cut that.
Yeah, and I do. So I don't know why I have all this baby hair growth, up close. But anyway.
Okay. So go on.
No, it's all right.
Walk me through your daily process. Like, okay, your styling process. Are you shampoo in the morning or shampoo at night?
I shampoo in the morning. Okay. Shower every morning, shampoo.
Perfect.
Shampoo.
So you're shampooing
hair dry, flat iron.
All of the stuff.
All of the stuff.
Okay.
That you say not to do.
Oh, no. I used to say not to do it. I'm learning actually that it's not so bad in some cases.
Yes, I blow dry and I do leave-in conditioner.
Okay.
Flip my hair over, do it on the ends, and do the mousse right here.
Okay.
And I do root lifter, a spray root lifter to try and get some volume. And I can get volume, but then gravity in 5 minutes has it flat.
Okay.
And so I'm not sure how to accomplish a little bit more stability in the volume of hair.
So not just creating the volume, but also getting it to hold.
Yeah, sustaining that look. Because by the end of the day, I'm flat. And I'll get a clip, and I'll clip my bangs out of the way.
Because they get in your frame, like on your glasses?
Yes. And it's just like, okay, I'm tired of fighting my hair all day.
Okay. Is it partly the length that you think that falls? Like, for instance, if these fell, but they didn't reach if they fell more like that, would that still bother you?
No, I don't think so. But a lot of my work, I'm down like this. And so hence always falling forward because I'm looking down a lot.
What do you do for work? Can I ask?
I'm a secretary.
Okay.
At a school. And
Great. Nice.
So I'm falling, I'm looking down a lot or looking at the monitor. And so my hair is, always going forward. And so I'm doing this constantly.
Got it.
To get it back out of my face.
So, okay. I want to talk more about how you style it on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
But just real quick, just to hit on what you just said. So there basically are two ways that you get hair to stay out of your face. You either cut it so short that it doesn't have enough length to fall into your face, right on the front,
right?
Or you leave it long enough that you can tuck it like you're doing.
Okay.
There is going to be a level or an amount of control that you're going to be able to achieve in it. So we're going to be able to get it to hold back to a certain extent. But even when you get it, even if when we go in, we use all the right products, we use all the right techniques, and we get it to stay back off your face and get as much control as we can, if you tilt forward, there's still going to be a level of it that's going to fall forward.
Okay.
And the problem that ends up arising is if you get it with enough control to get it to stay back off your face, even when you do this, the payoff to that is that it's so stiff. There's a reason that it's not falling in your face. And so that's either a good or a bad thing, right? Because you're like, well, now it's got no movement. but at least it doesn't fall on my face. But I don't like this, and this is what it is most of the time. Like I want it to look look good here. So we'll want to kind of determine what's going to make the most sense for you, and because that's going to determine a lot of how short or how long you leave the front, or where we leave certain lengths, which can also dictate other aspects of the haircut. So that's just something that we don't need to figure out right now. We can kind of table it, but we do need to kind of keep in the back of our mind that is going to dictate some of what we decide to do. You mentioned that you shampoo your hair, you add a conditioner, you do a leave-in conditioner, you add some products, then you start to dry it. So walk me through the actual drying process. You've got your products in it, and then step by step, what is your next steps to getting it totally styled?
So I will start with a small round brush to go to the nape underneath to get this as, and curled under, rounded under as possible. And then I got that brush that you recommended. The
volumizer?
Yes, the volumizer. And I'm drying that
to
the sides. And then I take a big round brush to hopefully get some lift and volume up on the top. And here. But usually I do the volumizer in a small round brush to get the volume in the back.
Okay, perfect. I mean, this is great because I'm going to walk you through processes that are going to help a lot of that. So part of what's probably contributing to the lack of volume and control for you, part of that is going to be part of it's going to be the products that you're using, but more likely not even the products, but exactly how they're used. I mean, it's so specific, right? But exactly how they're used. And then the techniques that you do from that point forward, the way you use the brush, where you're using brushes, what kind of brushes you're using, all of those things, it might be a minor change, but they add up to create a substantial effect. Right? So we'll walk you through those. We can show you all of that. And there are some issues, I don't want to say issues, but there are some things that I'm seeing with your hair right now that are also probably standing in your way. They're also contributing to the lack of Did I just say contributing? I just said contributing. That is not even a word. That's not even a good made up word. Contributing to the lack of volume. Contributing. Where does that even come from? So we can kind of work with that too. How long have you had the bob shape?
This is like my go-to. I love this.
Awesome. What do you love about it?
It's the length. I can't grow my hair long. I don't look good in long hair. I think the longer my hair does, the longer my face gets. And so this is about as long as I like it. I have gone really super short, but this up to the back of my jawline is about as short as I like to go.
Perfect.
Because I think this is good for me.
I'm with you 100%. Oh yeah.
I think this is.
You're looking at me like, is it okay?
No, I think this is a good shape for me just because this is something I can maintain and I can handle, and it's my go-to. So.
And if it's your go-to, there's a reason. That's a good thing, right? Like you've determined what functions well for you on a day-to-day basis. What we want to do, I think the direction that I would want to head is more in just refining the bob shape, not taking you out of a bob shape. If this overall shape range functions well for you, then let's just kind of dial it in a little bit and make it work as best as we can for whatever you want to achieve with it, right?
Yes.
So you did mention that like this is about the extent of the length that we want to see, and this is about the other boundary on how short you want to see. So somewhere in between that range. Is there anything like, for instance, do you have to get it back in a ponytail? Are there any other, so potentially maybe as long as this stuff can tuck as one of the options, like just to be safe, like either, like maybe we decide to leave this longer. So in that case, if we do decide to leave these longer, so you can tuck it back off of your face, then somewhere in this length range, and this can come up a little bit, we're okay. Is there anything in this range, in the bob shapes, that you've had in the past that you absolutely love or hated?
I don't like it when I have these wings, when it's wedged up in the back and I have these wings. I call them puppy dog ears. And
Got it.
I don't like those. And I want to get scissors and I want to cut them off.
Babe, can you do me a huge favor? Can you grab a mirror from Danielle's station over there real quick? I'm going to show you back. I think I know what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about, but I want to be positive before I assume. So I want to show you. Fantastic, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to hand this to you. Great, and we're just going to turn you to the side here. Hold on one second. Okay, so this is not going to. Okay, so now that you can see this, now are you seeing the puppy dog ear bulkiness right now?
Right here.
Right in there, okay.
Yeah.
So generally what happens is when you go up quite short or quite angled in the back, the angle doesn't actually start back here in the center, which on yours right now, it almost kind of is, right? It goes to like right here, and then see how much like dramatic that ends up being right there. Okay, so it's goes straight to about there, and then that's kind of where that angle starts, which is pretty close to where they typically would because it's right behind the ear. That's usually where that angle really should begin.
Okay.
But what ends up happening is if you try to go really short and get a really strong angle like that, there's not a lot of space in here to get this actual angle. There's not like a lot of length in the front, right?
Right.
And so what ends up happening is it ends up going really tight right here. This gets lifted up, and then all of this layering here pushes all this hair forward. You can't layer this hair the same way you can layer this hair back here, because this hair over the ears, there's so little hair right here that if we go through and break up this weight the same way that we did here, it's going to get really thin at the bottom, right?
Yes.
So there has to be enough bulk in this area to allow for it to look dense and have a line, which just means that we need to be thoughtful of how much we take out of here.
Okay.
Because if we take too much out of here, it doesn't mean taking more out of here allows me to take more out of there. I still am limited.
Right.
So I need to create a little bit less of this. So what you probably ended up having was this really dramatic tapering right here.
Yes.
That pushes all this hair forward, but you can't taper this stuff the same way you taper this. So all of a sudden now it just goes short, 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 long.
Yes.
And then you end up with these bulky pieces on the side that create what you're referring to as these dog ears, puppy dog, which is not uncommon at all. All that tells us is, okay, good, that's good, great information. Then we know that we don't actually take those dog ears away by taking the bulk out of it. We take those away by not creating so tight, making it so tight in the back that this stuff blends. Right? And so you would think I remove this and that's how I address it. But it's actually not this that's the problem. It's everything behind it that becomes a problem. And that's creating the illusion that it's making this puff out more and you're seeing it more. But also, once you create more volume in here, right, this stuff down here is not going to look as full.
No, it doesn't. It looks great.
Yeah, and immediately. And the reason for that is because it's an optical illusion. I actually didn't take any hair out of here when I just did this, right? Because that top stuff doesn't really, like a little bit right in there. But most of the stuff doesn't even reach. Most of the stuff I'm grabbing is it's literally this stuff up here that this is basically all still as full. But the minute you do this, it starts to look a little bit fuller down here. This lays flat. So if we can get this to have volume, less in there, it's going to create the illusion there's less down here. But we need a certain amount down here to create the actual line that creates a bob.
Okay.
Does that make sense at all?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So with that said, that's going to mildly dictate where our lengths go.
Okay.
Do you like... So ignore the problem or the concern of the dog ears. Do you like having that length up in the back as high as you can, or do you have a preference to how high that goes?
No, I don't.
Okay. So it doesn't bother you one way or the other. Like this, it's not this length in terms of how where it's sitting on your neck that's causing you a concern right now. It's the shape within this length that's causing you a concern.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Are you comfortable if I bring that length up a little bit?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other concerns aside from like the overall bob shape? Any other thing in general? I know that you mentioned that you've got some stuff going on right here that's going to grow out, which I actually think so. Your hair, have you noticed any like thinning or anything like that?
No. No. I mean, I've always had thin hair.
Okay.
And this new growth, and I'm very regular about a haircut.
Okay.
And so only if I go past the haircut, I notice it more. And I think, because everything's blended in and...
okay. There's a little bit more layering going on, and you're kind of seeing that it doesn't stand out quite as much. Once those layers get a little bit longer, they're separated from the length of, that shorter length, and then it shows up a little bit more.
Yes.
Got it.
But no, other than that, no, I like the bob look. Okay.
So what's going on, what I'm seeing is this stuff looks... So I say new growth, and I could be saying that actually incorrectly if I'm honest. So it's not uncommon, especially on finer textures, to see situations where like around the hairline, especially, or like right around the bang area, hair will grow to a certain extent, and then it just like wisps away to nothing.
Yes.
So it just like it's that long. Like I had a client that came in one time. I'm not exaggerating when I say that we cut her bangs. We used to cut them all the time, and then I'm like, are you cutting your bangs at home or something? Which is fine. I'll tell you how to do it. but they're just not, they don't need to be cut at all. Like they are the right length. And she's like, no, I'm not touching them. For like that on, I mean, I saw her for another 5 or 6 years. We never cut our bangs. They grew to a certain length and then they just stopped. And I went through all of the things on like, how are you styling them? Let's see step by steps. Like I need to understand, are you melting them off at the end with the blow dryer? Is it fun? No, she's doing nothing to it. It just would like grow to a certain length and then they would just get, every once in a while we'd like just strengthen the ends a little bit because they were just a little bit wispy, but they just stopped growing like any longer. It's just a certain hair texture that I find that will do that. And I think that's a little bit of what's going on right through here is these are just like, they grow out to that length and then they basically just wisp away and that's the length that they're going to be. So it's not necessarily new growth like your hair fell out and now it's coming back. And the reason that I make that distinction is because if it were something where it fell out, I would need to understand, well, why is it falling out? Was there a traumatic experience that happened? Medication changes? Because that can affect long-term, like what moving forward. Are we going to see more thinness in the area? Could that be a problem? Is it something that we should account for in any way, like what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, nutrition, anything? I mean, not that I would know a lot about nutrition, but at least I could point you in the direction of people that would know, right? And but it looks like this is probably something that sounds like it's just been kind of what it's always been like.
Yes.
So it's just part of the texture of your hair that it just kind of grows to that. And then you don't, they're just long enough that when you see shorter layers in here, you just don't notice that they disconnect as much.
Exactly.
Got it. Does that bother you at all? Or is there any like?
Only right now.
Only right now?
Only right now when I'm past a haircut.
Okay.
Because then they're much more dramatic of scene. And I always used to wonder, why do I always have bangs? And that's probably why. It's because they only grow to a certain length. And that's all I can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Alrighty. Okay, so when you look at your face, okay, and this is kind of a hard question for people to answer at times, so bear with me there. What I need to know two things. One, what are your favorite attributes of your face? And two, is there anything that you feel like a little bit self-conscious or at all self-conscious that you want to take focus off of? So what do we want to emphasize and what do you want to, is there anything that you don't want to emphasize?
The length of my face.
Okay, you feel like your face is long?
Right. And then sometimes I think, oh, maybe I should have bangs and have a lower forehead. But I do like my hair off my face too. So that's kind of a
catch-22?
Yeah, catch-22.
Are you cool with both? Meaning like, are when you think of bangs, how do you think of bangs? Like, what do you envision them being like? Like a straight cross bang. Okay.
Like a bang. But I do like feathered down my face, or something less, and they're not drastic when they're bobbed off and you're across your eyebrows. But I do like longer ones, if anything, to, style them in some fashion.
Okay. What's your favorite thing about your face?
I think my eyes and my smile.
Am I wrong? Was she wrong? 1,000%, right? Yeah, 1,000%. And again, like great cheekbones. You've got great face structure. Okay. Like you've got very like, I say angular. That's not like, there's nothing that sounds great to me. Like, angular face. But it is like you got a strong jawline, strong cheekbones. So it's like, it's a lot of really good structure to work with. We're not trying to create that structure for you. Your face already has it. Okay. So it's good. Now we can just like emphasize it a bit. Yeah, absolutely. Like eyes and smile, definitely the first things that I noticed right out of the gate. So I'm glad you agree. I think that the idea of softness, I think is a good idea for you. Straight across bangs, I'm with you. I think that might be a little bit much. I think you could do them actually, because what you would actually find is if you went across, right, like this, I know that's right in your face, but you would actually end up with a stronger overall bang, which actually ends up drawing more emphasis to your eyes, but at the same time, it takes out some of that length that that you might be concerned about. The thing though is I think that would probably drive you crazy sooner. Like you would like it, and then it would quickly drive you nuts. Yeah. And the amount of time that you liked it would be far less than the amount of time that it drove you nuts. So it's a little bit of a lose win on that one, right? So, but I do think at the same time, having some pieces that are a little bit shorter, right? So they kind of break down a little bit more like a soft bang, more like that. And maybe some pieces over here, they're even a little bit shorter. So you're not wearing a bang bang. It'll do the same thing though, in terms of it'll offer a little bit less length to your face. Okay. It'll draw a little bit more emphasis to your eyes actually. But more importantly, this breaking right here, which we need yours to do because of the glasses. Okay. But also when those bangs break right there and this volume sits in and this volume, we create more volume in there, this little triangle actually following the cheekbone, because the cheekbones kind of create a triangle. Like if I pull this out, or like even look at mine, like your eye socket creates this like little bit of a triangle shape. So when your hair does that too, it's like it accentuates that a little bit more. So it draws even more emphasis to having a little bit more lift in there and a little bit more softness. So it actually works all of those things all at once.
Okay.
So I think we bring this length up a little bit. I don't think we need to bring it up a lot. I think the length isn't bad on you at all. But I think you really could wear anything between the length that you're at now and here are all equally going to look good on you. Because it's what we do after that length internally that's going to make it function better for you. So those lengths are such like a personal thing. Like, I prefer it this length. Cool. It's going to look every bit as good as this length because we're going to do internally what we need to do, right?
Okay. Yes.
So but I do think we bring this up a little bit. And mainly I think we bring it up a little bit. I'm going to give you this again. Because if we can do that, it gives me a little bit more control. I'm just going to comb some of this down. Over the line that we put in it, right? So if I can get like, see how there's a little bit of excess length, like right back here, that's just grow out stuff. But also there's a pretty fair amount of beveling back here. Like this is layered pretty high.
Okay.
So if I can get in here a little bit, take some of that length up a bit, then I have a little bit more control because I wouldn't layer this in the back more than it already is. I need some of this actually to fill in just a tiny bit.
Okay.
And once we pull that bulk out of here or that length out of there, we can lighten some of this stuff up a little bit, and still allow us. So it takes some of that bulk out of the back, but it gives us a little bit more ability to create the shape that we want to create. And so if the longer I leave this, the less I can do that because now it's being dictated. So I need to be able to go, all right, let me get this length up a little bit, not necessarily because it's in a perfect length for you, but because just this allows me a little more versatility what I can do with this and allows this to feel like it's filled in just a little bit more. It kind of allows me to kind of resculpt the shape into it.
Okay.
Does all that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And then this stuff we're going to go a little bit shorter with over there. Same thing with this. So I'm not going to do, there will be pieces that are short, like, legitimately break, like up here, but they're going to be a few pieces and it's going to quickly fade into this. The detriment to this is that not all of this is going to tuck back into one ponytail.
And that's
sorry, behind your, but I think most of it actually will. And you have a hair texture that even if it doesn't all tuck back, but most of it does. You have the amount that's going to fall out is this. It'll just be shorter, right? But it's going to be roughly the same amount. That's pretty easy. Like worst case scenario, if it's like driving you absolutely insane, you could spray that because it's such a light amount of hair and get it to like stay back a little bit easier, or you could twist it back and tuck it and it would stay back pretty easy. So you've got some versatility with there, but then when you're actually like looking up and you want it to style and look strong, it'll look great. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Perfect.
I'm excited.
Easy enough, easy enough. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna get you shampooed and then I'm going to hack all your hair off.
Yay.
Perfect, as long as you're good with that. All right, you come with me, we're gonna get you. Okay, now while Rachel is getting shampooed, this gives me the perfect opportunity to tell you that I still very much need your help. If you do like this style of content, I need you to like this. I need you to share this with your friends, and I need you to comment below. I need you to still allow the algorithm to know that you like it so that it continues to get views and I can then create more of this content for you. But if you don't do those things, then I don't get to create more of this for you. So help me out, get down there. You guys absolutely killed it last time. Thank you so much for that. So let's do it again. Now that you know that, let's get back to the haircut. Now for the cut. Okay, so just to recap, we're gonna bring the length up a little bit. We're going to still have layers back here, but it's just not gonna be super tapered, like really, really tight. And then we're going to strengthen this line in just a little bit because there's a little bit of thinness to the line. Gonna add a little bit shorter pieces, so not a heavy bang, but a little bit of bang type pieces in the front. And then we're going to lighten this top layering up a little bit more so you get a little bit more lift in the top.
Okay.
Cool, cool, cool.
Thank you.
I'm actually not going to put that on. Put that down there. Alrighty. Now let's see if I actually know how to do this. I've done it once, I promise. Okay. Now, do you find that you always part your hair right here?
Yes.
Always?
Yes.
Usually it's nice because when it gets wet, I can really like comb it down and kind of see what's going on. And then it gets a little easier to kind of figure out really what's happening. Sometimes when it's dry, hair that's dry tends to look a little denser. so it can be a little harder to see like where the thinness is. Like I can see in here is a little bit thin. Okay. So there's a little texturizing going on just at the bottom in there. Okay, we'll get most of that off. Okay, perfect. And legs uncrossed. I'm just gonna have you look down just a tiny bit. Like that's perfect. Alrighty. You said you're a secretary at a school?
Yes.
What school is it? All right, and how long have you been doing that?
I've been there. This is my 22nd year.
Really?
Yes.
22 years?
22 years.
So I'm assuming that you love it.
Yes, I do. It's a good place.
Now, are you one of the secretaries that actually like interacts with kids?
I'm in the counseling office, so yes, there's 4 counselors at the building, and yes, and I'm their secretary. So yeah, we see a lot of kids.
Like I always feel like they were like the cool, as far as like the staff goes, let's be honest, right? Like there were the cool ones and then the ones like, you clearly don't like kids. Why are you so mad at everybody?
Why are you here?
Yeah.
Why are you here? Yeah.
But I feel like that's not you.
Well, all of our staff is really good. They're there for the kids.
Now, is that something like, so 20 years ago you started?
Well, I worked at the elementary school for 6 years before that. So this is my 28th year working for the school district.
Oh my gosh.
I like the little kids. The little kids are fun too.
Do you have an age that you prefer working around? Or can you say?
Well, I like the kindergartners and, the first graders are so cute. But the high schoolers, you see so much growth from when they come in as freshmen to when they graduate.
True, right?
You see so much growth and hope for the future.
That makes sense.
Like, wow. And then I always wonder where those kids ended up. How.
Do they ever come back and like check in?
They do. Sometimes they do. For the first couple of years when they're still deciding what their major is, and then you still see them, or they'll call and say, hey, ask for a transcript, and I'll check in with them. I'll ask them where they're at and what they're doing. It's kind of fun to hear them. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's cool though.
And it is nice to see them. They think they're ready for the real world until they get out there.
I don't think anybody's ready for the real world because I don't think you understand what it's like until you're in it.
Right.
Like, I know you have an idea of what you think it's going to be like.
Exactly. And the kids, the seniors, they go through that. They're ready, and then they panic right before graduation because then they realize they're not ready.
Yeah.
And then when they come back, it's just like, wow. Big changes.
And they're not ready, like, at no fault to the school.
Oh, no.
And
it's just emotionally.
Yeah, exactly.
They've never been on their own before until they get out. And they're like, wow. A rude awakening.
Yeah, it is I think we probably had the same thoughts, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I know it was a shock for me.
Gonna take over the world.
Yeah, like, I know, especially when you're that age, like, you know everything.
Oh, yeah.
I knew everything. I still know everything.
We knew
Although my wife tells me all the time how little I know. It's the weirdest thing how she can be so right when I know everything. But yeah, no, high school, I think that's like the prime time for knowing all things. Then quickly determining, well, hold up, wait. But what? Bill? What? Who's Bill? What? Oh, bills. Oh, plural.
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Gotta
What's
pay
this?
that? What?
Yeah. Why would I? Why? Well, I actually watch this guy now. I've seen him on TikTok a few times, and I don't know how old he is, but he's got like a video podcast. And so his whole like kind of shtick is that he's clearly like a financial planner, analyst, something, right? He's in finances. So he's always talking to people that are like, he has all their financials and they're clearly struggling. And they're all like, say 20s to mid 30s. One girl is like 40 something. And they're really struggling. And he gets so angry about everything that it's kind of comical to watch him. But he's so mad. But it's true. Like, you're kind of like, they're so, I don't want to work. I should just be able to have things. Why would I have to? And he's just like, what are you talking about? Like, what? You just took a loan out to go on vacation and you have no job.
And I have to pay that back? What?
Yeah. He's like, how can you, or like one girl that was mad because she has a thing, like basically a prerequisite for working for any job, right? Her prerequisite is that she gets 3 days a week off where she doesn't have to work paid. They need to pay her.
Wow.
For just like emotional
Can I have that
concerns.
job?
Yeah, I'm like, me too.
I want that job.
Can we all do that? I'm just going to tilt your head just off to the right a little bit. Perfect. Thank you.
Wow.
And he just gets, he gets kind of aggro about it, but he's so mad that it's kind of comical because I'm like, I kind of get the same way about things. Like, don't get mad, but I get very worked up and I'm like, and so I'm like, oh, you're like me.
But then how do they realize that that's not life? How do they, when did they figure that out?
And that's the thing. You hope that they would learn. You would have hoped that they would have learned it far sooner.
Oh, yeah. I would have hoped by then, especially if you're in your 30s.
Yeah.
Late 20s. Whoosh.
Yeah. Like on some level. I've never always been good with money, don't get me wrong. But like I recognize that I have to earn money to spend something on some level.
And I have to be responsible. I have a car. I need gas. I have insurance.
Yeah. Where do you think that money comes from?
I want a cell phone, so.
Exactly.
Oh, wait, I'm on my parents' plan.
Which they all are, mind you. Like, yeah, these are folks that are not prepared. What I'll end up doing is I'm cutting this. I'm basically just getting some length out of the way so I can kind of see what's going on.
Okay.
I'll dry it, like flat iron and everything like you normally do. Then I'll go back through and actually cut it. I'll need to get it dry to see it perfectly so I can really get that line clean and take out the correct amount of bulk. So this is kind of a preliminary, just kind of getting the shape roughly into it.
Well, and if you have to go shorter, that's totally fine.
We'll go only as short as we need to.
Yeah.
Because we'll take it as short as we need to make it sense and make it as we need to go to make it make sense.
Right.
Is what I was trying to get at.
Yes. To make it viable. So please.
And like actually the layering, I might clean some of that up right now. It is texturized. That's what which is part of. Yeah, do you see how thin that gets? But do you see how low this gets? So this is this long, right? Okay. So this is part of the concern. This is not uncommon, actually. You've got texturizing going on, okay, where it gets thinner as it gets. Let's see if I can kind of flatten this out so you can see a little bit better. Okay, this starts down in here, where it gets a little bit thinner, and then the ends get a little bit thicker. But then you can see that it's all down here, but you still have these little blanks. So these little hairs you can barely see, but this stuff up here, that's not going to do anything. It's going to act like it's this long, basically, but you have all these ends that are just so you're going to get some bend, and those ends are just going to they end up looking kind of like frizz or like broken to pieces. They don't actually have any strength to get to control to hold the bend, and bend is what creates volume.
Okay.
So texturizing at the very ends, and we'll show you after it's dry, I'll do that. Texturizing to blend out, perfect. But texturizing this much is actually more problematic than anything. It'll end up creating more of a concern. So we need to go through and strengthen some of those ends up a little bit. Still leave some of it broken up, if you will, so it's not totally blunt, but you want that breaking up just to be at the very, very ends of it. I'll just cut some of that off right now so I can kind of show you. Here, let's just go because it'll be all the way through here. So I'll just remember that we cut this part and I'll come back to it. Yeah. So we need. So we need these ends to not be totally blunt, okay? So we're not going to do it, and I still need to go in more, but just to give you an idea, I'm not going to go through and like cut it like this so it's a perfect line, but we just want it to be broken up. So each end in here is still pretty strong, but it's not a straight line. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But that's important for, the reason I show this to clients is because it's important to understand, like when you pull your hair out, if you're seeing a lot of those little ends that are like sticking out there that are way longer than everything else, you're almost better off just grabbing some shears and just cutting those off. Those are like 5 or 6 hairs because they're not doing anything for you.
Okay.
They're actually like causing more of a problem.
Yeah, the round brush keeps going around and around to get them under.
Yeah, well, and then they'll do like what they want. They'll either lay flat or they'll just get like really like ringlety curly, if depending on the hair texture. But they don't actually like create shape.
And that's why I cut them off.
Yeah.
They kind of get, I don't know, they get crinkled.
Yeah.
And then I cut them off. Because then they look like they're a lot of frizz.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of people will do that. Will cut like your hair texture like that. They'll really kind of like texturize it out because they think it's going to lighten it up and allow you a little bit more shape. But the way that you get, or the more volume, the way you get volume is one of two ways: you texturize hair, or you take it shorter to a certain extent. And so in your case, the better thing to do is actually just take the layers a little bit shorter.
Okay, because I know she takes texturizing scissors and goes through pretty.
Yeah, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but we need some strength at those ends, like this stuff, and see how long those still are, even for this, And I took like this much length off, so they're still quite long by comparison. Like we can get in here, this doesn't go any thinner, and I can take quite a bit more length out of this to get that to actually have a little bit more fullness on top.
Okay.
And that's going to function much better having this stronger, having those like broken up like that, but still more blunt even than like really long, like overly texturized. I'm still going to get more volume out of this just by lightening those up a little bit and taking this a little bit shorter. And then if I need to, I can go back in and texturize the ends to blend it. But the texturizing is to blend the ends so that it looks soft, like you don't see any lines, not to lighten it up to try to create volume. I want to create volume by taking it short enough that I can get the volume in it.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just pulling out a little bit of hair here in this area just to make sure I don't layer it so much that it starts to look thin in that area. So I want to pull some of that out. A little bit more density in there. Stuff since we're going to go short with it. Okay, this is going to look scary. Just a heads up. Okay. Have you ever had a razor used on you before?
Not for a long time.
Okay. These are good and bad. These can be an absolute nightmare, in all honesty, especially on your hair texture. They actually
I trust you.
I'm telling you how terrible this can be.
I trust you.
I'll show you the difference because I think it's a part of the reason I also show people this, and not so much you, I'm actually showing you as well right now, is because people will have their hair cut a certain way with a certain tool and they go, it didn't work out. I never want that tool used. And so I like to like show people like, well, here's the way you do it right and here's the way you do it wrong. It's not the tool, it's the way it's being used for that specific scenario. It can be your best friend. The way I'm using this right now, I could go in, and this will happen on your hair texture because I've seen a lot of people do this to it. Well, they'll go through and they'll actually take the razor like this, and they'll just razor out through the hair, or they'll go in like this and razor it out. And basically what it does is it strips each individual hair away until it's basically nothing, okay? So it doesn't cut it blunt at the ends, it just strips it away. And those little ends are like heavily texturized. They'll end up getting really frizzy, really messy. They don't hold any bend. It can be a nightmare. The way I'm doing it with yours is I just want a little bit of control over the bangs and how short I take them. So I'm basically just using it like the side of a shear, and I'm just cutting a blunt end, but just using this instead of using scissors to cut like this. So it's not this. This is just being the tool it's not the, it's a process that's the issue. So I just want to go, all right, I want some of this to be a little bit softer. I'll start them a little bit longer, but I'm just kind of going in and just getting those ends basically cut with this. So I'm still cutting a blunt line with it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not wisping it away or anything like that. I'm just using this because I can kind of draw it out versus like shears, it's just a little bit different. But it creates essentially the exact same feel. And then I can go back through, comb this down, and then look at it. And if I want to clean that up with shears, I can clean it up a little bit just to make sure that it's a little bit more blended. But the razor is like a hot topic where people will be like, I can't use a razor, it destroys my hair. I'm like, you got to see the difference in it. Like, it can be an incredible tool for stuff like that, where I really want to be specific about the, you know, the way that I get this layering in the front. I can get better control doing that. Okay, and then after that gets dry, we'll do the same thing on this side. Now, yeah, because you already have these pieces in here. All we're really doing is connecting those into the layers a little bit more to make them look more purposeful. Very bottom here. Perfect. Okay, now I'm just going to go ahead and actually use these. Let's check this top stuff. I decided that one of these days I want to do a haircut blindfolded. Would you would you volunteer for that?
Sure.
Really? Would you?
Yeah, I would.
Be honest.
I would.
You would?
I would trust you. You can do it.
That's called having blind faith right there in something. Literally.
With as much experience as you have, I'm sure you can do it while you're sleeping.
I think that the funny thing is, like, it would be challenging, but also not. Like, I think people would think the scary part would be that you would cut somebody. And I'm like, actually, I wouldn't, because if you think about it, I thought about this, right? I'm like, most of the time I'm doing this. So I'm not going to cut you. I'm going to cut myself.
Yeah, you got your fingers out there.
But I have, like, done this enough. Like, the question is, can I actually, not so much can I cut myself, but can I cut the hair and not miss, you know?
You do a lot more tactile, you know? You feel for the ends.
Oh, yeah.
See how far they're out.
Where's that piece? Let's see. Oh, there it is. You know, do some of that. It's so awkward. I don't know. You think I should? Come on.
Sure. I'll be your guinea pig.
I told my wife she's going to be my guinea pig. Yep. She says, nope.
I think she's your guinea pig a lot.
She is.
She's a good sport.
But she gets more haircuts now than she ever has. Only because now we keep on cutting it shorter. Yeah, and I'm like, hey, like it used to be before I was filming, doing stuff, she never got a haircut. Because I'm like, I don't want to come home from work and work. Like,
and cut more hair.
Yeah, especially on yours.
And now she's the only one there.
Yep. Now she's the only one that lets me cut her hair. Everyone else is like, yeah, no, dude, no. Blindfolded? What are you, insane?
Well, that's not true if you've been on the road and you cut people's hair.
Okay, yeah. So what we're going to do, because you've got a hairline, I'll spin this around so everyone can see it, but your hairline has a lot of, like, it's a pretty strong growth, right? So it grows over like this, and then it grows into like there's a little cowlick right here, and this side kind of comes in this way too. So because of that strong, do you struggle with your hairline at all? Does that ever bug you?
No, because I try and keep it short or covered up. So
Perfect.
keep it straight.
Yeah. So what I'll end up doing actually is I'll probably end up taking that pretty high, like towards the hairline.
Okay.
And then what we'll do is we'll do this when it's dry. I'll have you roll your head around just like this, like a neck, because that's going to show what that neckline will naturally do.
Okay.
And then I'll cut it straight, because no matter how you dry it, what'll happen is you'll dry it straight and it'll look great. And then you'll go like this, look over something, and it's naturally just going to kick into place, and then it'll look uneven or it'll look like it kicks up, whatever. So we just get that, right? We just know that you're going to do this. When you dry it straight, it's going to be uneven.
Okay.
But then the second you start moving your head around, it's going to go like this and even out. It's not like a big deal, but I do think it's like those little minor things that like make it like, oh, it looks a little bit stronger. Because part of a bob is the strong line that goes, like that's what makes a bob. Like DIONNA is like, it's very purposeful. We go in and edge that in to make it super strong, because that's what gives it a lot of its foundation. So yours, we're just going to take it a little bit higher and tighter once it gets dry, and I can see that, and then we'll just dial that in.
Okay.
Okay, easy enough. What we're going to do now that I have it partially cut is we're going to dry it. We're going to work some shape into it, and then we'll go through it and kind of finish it out.
Okay.
So for this video, I'm going to style it. I'm going to kind of work through it. I'm not going to instruct you as much on how to do it, because we're going to be doing that in a video here pretty soon. So I kind of don't want to instruct you all. I want that to be all very organic. So I'm just going to kind of put the product in and do it my way, and then we'll get to the teaching in the next video.
Okay, nice.
All right. Let's start with this.
I think I noticed the hairline in the back more summer versus winter. Summer, no collar. Winter versus all the collar. So I don't notice it as much. I do notice the wonky line in the back all summer, just because I'm not wearing a collar.
100%. And that's the thing. Like, it's not a bad thing, right? Like, I over dramatize things when it comes to hair. And I'd be like, oh, this is going to destroy this. This is going to make it, And part of the reason I do that, though, is to kind of like show the how dramatic it can be, or like to show you, like, if I make you feel like this is a really big deal, then you'll slightly pay attention to it. Is it going to like make or break the shape? No. But if I don't explain it and I don't make it a big deal for myself, I won't explain it. I'll just like ignore it or forget about it, right? And then I'll never tell you, and then you'll never know that there's another option that you're like, oh, if you just do this, it'll actually make, and little stuff like that, like, oh, now we're talking about the way that it grows out. Because what will happen on bobs, especially on yours, or tell me if this has happened. Have you ever noticed that it starts like this when you look at the profile, right? The shape looks like this. And then as it grows, it starts to look like this, it starts to look like it's long in the back, and it's like this stuff. You see, because that neckline, if you don't create enough of that angle to begin with, and then on top of that, that neckline is kind of doing whatever it wants to do, it's going to start to like kick down and kind of look odd or whatever, and it'll start to create that feeling. Whereas if I can get that straight out of the gate, when you go like this, it's going to grow up more in a line.
Okay.
And you're not going to see that as much. It's not going to feel like it drags in the back as much. So it's a minor thing, but it is a thing that actually might get you an extra week before it starts driving you crazy or whatever.
It's a real thing.
It's a thing. Okay. Now, have you always lived you're in Albany right now. Have you always lived in Albany?
Well, I grew up in Redmond. And
okay, that's right.
I grew up in Redmond. We've been in Albany, though, for, let's see, my middle child is 34, so it's 34 years in Albany.
Do you like Albany more than Redmond? Be careful. We live in Redmond.
As I've gotten older, I appreciate Redmond more now. And it's grown and changed so much.
It's entirely different place, right?
It's not the town I grew up in, but it's a nice town. I appreciate it more now that I'm older.
Yeah. What do you appreciate about it now?
Well, I like going over there in the blue sky. The valley has a lot of gray sky.
Yeah, you still get the West Coast rain.
Yes, but you go over there and you see the blue sky, the crisp, even though it might be crisp, a little chilly, you still have blue skies.
I am so with you 1,000%.
It's the blue sky.
You know what else I didn't know that I was going to notice, but I notice is even though it's like cold and like there's a lot of sun or whatever, I didn't realize like driving all over the United States, right? So like especially on a cold day, crisp air, you look out, you see the mountain ranges, but they're very clear and you really see them. Like they're close, but you're like, whoa, that's a very prominent mountain right there, and there's 8 of them or whatever, and like they're. In the summer, like it's hazier, so they don't have as much. They're not as pronounced.
Right.
But in the wintertime, like you see them so dramatically. When we were driving around, it's part of what brought us back to Redmond all the time. We're driving all over the states, and I'm thinking, oh well, this is normal. The Colorado Rockies, they're Rocky Mountains. There's got to be a bunch of this.
No.
No. There's nothing like. You're like, that's not a mountain. That's a hill. Where's the mountains?
Yeah.
Oh, they're all right in that little like range along Bend and Redmond, and you're like, you come out there, you're like, this is very different.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, you see Blackview, the Three Sisters, Broken Top, Mount Jefferson, Washington.
You know them all.
Black Butte.
Yeah.
You can see Hood on a good day.
Yep.
You see the Smith Rocks, and you think, wow, you get to see diversity. It's nice.
Smith Rock is. That's like a different world there.
Yes.
Like it's the opposite of what you expect to even see there. You expect mountains and stuff, and then all of a sudden you're there. You're like, wait a minute, this too?
Yes. And Crooked River Ranch, yeah.
Yeah. If you were going to move back to Redmond, and you could buy a house anywhere, Bend, Redmond, Sisters, any of that area, where would you buy?
Oh, wow. I don't know. I haven't thought about it.
It's tough, right? Especially now, because it's so much different.
Yeah, I haven't thought about it just because when I go, I stay with my mom.
Oh, yeah? Truth? In your old childhood home?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that old neighborhood, that's home. So there are times when I like to change my part just because the volume that I get when I flip it over.
Definitely.
And that's normal.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's very, well, you've got a little bit of a cowlick too, so it's going to be even more dramatic for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, it's a totally different look immediately for you. But even so what'll generally happen, because I did the same thing on my hair actually, is you'll go to the one way for a while, and then you'll get more volume, and then it'll kind of like start to tame down.
Right.
Flip the other way.
Right.
And it goes back, because your part can kind of be trained.
Okay.
To some extent, depending on how dramatic that growth pattern is. But for the most part, you can kind of train it. So it'll go, and it'll just be like, oh, all of those just kind of like, those roots will just kind of start doing this. And then like, whoa, wait a minute, now you're going the other way. And we'll start doing that. And oh, wait, now you're going the other way, you know. But at the same time, that's why I always, and I'm getting into teaching before we get into teaching, but I'll take it anyway. That's why I always say that we do what we call non-directional. So you always, like, I tell people, in a perfect world, you get this brush in, and you go
everywhere.
Back and forth, all the way around. And you don't, purposefully, you don't go one direction with it. Okay. Now on yours, if you are going to go this direction, for the most part, and it's getting flat, then I would definitely keep that. I would be going the opposite direction around there for sure. And I would just bring the very bang area, back and forth. But this stuff behind the bangs goes all this way.
Okay. Because I have been trying to do that, because you had another YouTube on that.
Yeah.
And so I've tried it, and it did work, but I also needed a haircut to help. No, truth. So that's the key, and you hit on something that's super important for people to understand. Is I have a tendency to teach a lot of techniques, especially for drying and stuff like that on hair. And the problem with that, it's pro and a con, but the problem is those techniques are reliant on a foundation being there to build a house on, right? And it's part of the trademark to me of a good or bad haircut. A good haircut
especially when it's shorter. When we start getting into shorter lengths where we really have the ability to do this, a good haircut should be essentially you, when you're styling it, it should be a matter of you just enhancing the shape that is already there. Okay. You're not creating it. And unfortunately, a bad haircut or a less opportune haircut is one where you're really forced to try to create volume in certain areas, and where other areas are too much volume, right? So like you'll see that when I comb this down after we're done, when I comb it down, I'm going to comb it flat. You'll look at the overall like exterior of it, and the exterior is like it's basically going to have the same shape that we need out of it. The only difference is I'm just going to amplify. I'm just going to fluff it up, and now that same shape is just a little bit bigger, and that's what we want. So even when it lays flat, my goal is to go, okay, well I want it to lay flat, but even if it lays flat, I still want this to taper in a little bit. I don't want this to get totally full. I want there to be a little bit of like, just doing this, I want there to be a little bit of volume up in here, you know what I mean? So we get a little bit more of the shape we want, and then all I'm going to do is go in and I'm just going to enhance that a bit more. We're going to lay this in, and all of a sudden now we're starting to get a little bit more of the shape that we're looking for.
Look at that.
This will come back off the face a little bit more. Like, and I'm not even, like, I've still got more work to do. This is like not even a good foundation by itself. But once we really get that in, all you're going to do is just kind of fluff up the shape that's already there. And even if you don't do it, it's not a big deal because the volume isn't too big in certain areas because there's not enough hair there to get big. Okay. So does that make sense?
Yes. So I hope you tell me the terminology to help my hairdresser.
Yeah. And honestly, like that's the hardest part. So what I would do
is, she does a good job, but she cuts it how I ask her to, but it's having the right language. Yeah. And
that's gonna be the hardest part, is because a language it is a bit like foreign language, and the idea that just because I speak French doesn't mean she might speak Italian, and so I tell you to say it this way, and she'll be like, "What? I have no idea what you're talking about right now." Or worst case, it might mean something completely different that is actually totally the opposite of what I want you to do in this case. So what I find works best is when you tell people what you like and what you don't like. I don't like this. Do you see how this, I don't like when this gets too thin. I don't like it when this happens. I do like it when this happens. That's usually the easier way than saying, I don't like it when it's too thick at the bottom. Can we thin this bottom out? That's problematic because that could mean a host of different things. But I don't like when this gets too full. I feel like it makes this look too flat. Can I get more volume up here and less volume in here? Is there a way that we can cut that into it? Like something we can do with the cut to do that? And if they're going to understand it, they're going to understand it at that point. Okay. The approach to how you remove that volume is going to be person to person. My approach would be that I create less heaviness up here by taking these layers a little bit shorter instead of taking the bulk out down here. But if the stylist doesn't know to do that in the very beginning, you're not going to be able to tell them in a way that they're going to understand. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Okay. Because I use those same words of it's too thick down here.
Yes.
And she does exactly what I say.
Yeah, she'll thin it out down there. Really, like the other way you take out bulk is to layer it. If there's not enough hair down there to get thick, it's not going to get thick. But does that make sense? Like if it doesn't reach there, so that's the kind of the bigger thing. So it might be a scenario where you just like have to show her, or tell her, well, this felt a little bit too like dog ears. It gets too bulky down there. But when it thins out, it looks too thin. Can we just like lighten, can we add less hair down there by lightening these layers a little bit more? Would that work? Like you can give her ideas like that, but there's just not one simple way that's going to be like, this is how you explain it to her. And she's going to get it. Like, yeah, it's tough. And bobs, to her defense, are hard. Like, bob shapes are probably, to me, like, I look at people and go, if you can do a good bob, I know that you can do you're a strong stylist. Because you can do a lot of other things and still not know how to cut a bob because they're so technical. There's such a small difference that makes such a big difference. Anybody can cut them, but making them look good and work well, that's a whole different ballgame. So I'm just trying not to grab your earrings.
Oh, you won't.
Until I do. DIONNA, can you plug in your Tymo? Just for the cut, I want to get it down in.
So is DIONNA a hairstylist as well?
She was at one point. It was when I first met her, actually, she had like a little salon in her house that she was like, do like a few of her friends' hair and stuff. And then before that, she did work at a, like before I ever met her, she worked at a salon. But I don't think she ever got like really, really, really into it. She got like, if you open that, yeah, there should be like a.
So this hair dryer that you're using, I have a Dyson.
So don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of Dyson. I'm using this one. Dysons are great, and I wouldn't have an issue with it. The reason that I use Lichen, and the reason that I work with Lichen, like I legitimately like the next video I'm filming is sponsored by Lichen. Like they're paying me to make that video, right? But I choose to work with them because I've tested this against the Dyson, and they wouldn't let me tell when I did the video. They would not let me say, which I cannot say now. So we'll cut this. It dries hair faster than the Dyson did. Oh. It dries it with less heat.
Now they don't mind if you say it, but before.
Yeah, less heat, less noise, and half the cost or less. So this is like $120.
Dyson's expensive.
Yeah, I had to move the Dyson that I had over there.
I think on sale right now it's like
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I mean like I'm trying to get this side. It's legitimately every bit as good, if not better, on every account than the Dyson was. And that's like I've worked with Dyson too, and like that was the problem.
Because I did notice that, and I thought that's very similar. It's very similar.
I think that was part of the down draw. People looked at it like it was a dupe, so it couldn't be as good because it was the only one that looked like the Dyson looked. When the Dyson, like Dyson looked so different that everybody knew what it was, And then this one was the first one that kind of mimicked it. And so we're like, oh, that's clearly that's a remake. That's a knockoff. So it can't be as good as the Dyson. And I'm like, actually, no, it's better than the freaking Dyson and way cheaper. And it is legitimately the reason that I work with this company or that I talk about this company. It's not because they're the only ones that will pay me, because I've got a lot of other blow dryer brands or hot tool brands that reach out and constantly want me to. And I'm like, I just turned one down that was going to pay me more than these guys. But I'm like, I've been working with them forever. It's a strong blow dryer. I know I can count on it. I've told so many people about it. Everybody I've ever told about it loves it. I can't give that up just to push another dryer that's supposed to be better that I don't know, Like this just makes, I know this functions, so I'm not gonna, the only down draw I have to it that I don't like is that the cord's not long enough for install on use, Like it's built to be worked at home, not at, not the salon. And that's what it does really well, like it works at home. I'm gonna go through and flat iron this too. I'm just trying to get a little bit of that top area in piece. Because like even with just a little bit of control, like of product, right, and just a little bit of round brushing, we're getting this to hold off relatively easily. Considering we've done really nothing to it at this point, so we'll be able to get that to, like even if it breaks, like look down, it's not gonna be ridiculous.
No, it's not.
And now if I sprayed that or used like a wax or something on this, that would stay back even a lot easier. So this is kind of worst case scenario. And if I'm totally honest, like this is still like I'd want this. If I really wanted to get into it, I probably would dampen this down a tiny bit. I'm even bring this over a little bit more this direction to kind of really like. So that's what I mean by non-directional. So yeah, like I know I'm going this way with it, but I'm not going to style it this direction. I'm going to round brush it this way.
Sorry.
No worries. And then you have, here's where these little pieces will come in handy for you. Those little pieces that drive you crazy. Load them up like this. Heat them up. And then pull them down. And then you can have bangs like that.
All right. Wow.
But what they'll do is, so here's what we know, right? We know that volume falls, okay? You don't get volume and all of a sudden just have volume that stays all day long. So if I can get those little pieces to kind of stand up a bit, they'll create a little bit of lift underneath, and they actually create a little bit of support for the stuff that hangs over it. So you'll get a little bit more lift and control out of that front. So now like that barely falls.
Right.
It's not going to last all day like that yet, but it gives us a little bit of foundation.
But it's better than having that whole chunk of hair fall down into my face.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
I like it.
Now I'm just going to need to flat iron a few pieces. Polish that off. I just got to, let's see. Look down real quick. Yeah. Now, I'm not going to flat iron in the next video. I'm just flat ironing it now because I need to see this line perfectly. So I need to get everything like annoyingly straight and tilt your head all the way to this side.
You know, in your lighting, my hair color looks good. Salt and pepper doesn't look so bad.
I think it looks great. So, you know, the funny part is the lighting in the salon is terrible. The only reason this looks good is because I turn all the house lights off and then use this lighting, because otherwise it's like overlit. I'm like, like overhead lighting. Like,
It's the worst.
It is. We were actually just complaining about the hotel we were staying in, and I'm like, I want to tell them to, like, I don't care that much about lighting, but I'm like, it's so bad. I'm like, you can't, like, I do my hair when I get here. Like, she's like, I can't do my makeup here. I mean, like, yeah, no, it's all overhead lighting. Like, so we're in the front of the sink in the bathroom. There's just one puck light right above you. There's just like Scarface lights you. And then there's like a tiny bit of light from the sides of the mirror, but they're like, they're way over here. Yeah. And it's like barely lit. So you're like, all I see is bald when I look at it. Like, I'm like, you guys have to think though, like as a hotel, you have women like in here trying to get ready for a fancy night. You've got El Gaucho in your, you know, like downstairs, like you got nice restaurants. Like
you're not making them feel very pretty.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, you have to know that they're going to be like, oh, I don't even know if I'm doing my makeup well. If you know, like people, I feel like people, that's a little thing that would make a difference to people though.
I agree. Because you want to, if you're going out for the evening, you want to look your best. And if the lighting's not good.
Or like just having a full-length mirror. I can't stand going into a hotel that doesn't have a full-length. I'm like, how do you not have a full-length mirror?
Yeah. That's odd when they don't have one.
Yeah, like they have one, but it's all like smoked and like there's designs on it, so you can't really use it. And there's like a shelf in the middle of it. I'm like, this doesn't really work as a full-length mirror. I'm like, okay. Like, I'm kind of confused because this is your thing. Like, you're a hotel. Like, isn't that kind of part of your service is great, but don't you want everything else to kind of dial in too? We're getting much closer now. Okay, we need to clean that up. And you're going to be sick of me by the time you're done here today. Okay, clean this up a little bit. This is going to... that. I mean, honestly, it's strong. At this point, without even finishing it out, it's not looking bad. Like, we're on the right track. Now I just need to dial her in a little bit. Polish it off. Let's see. Do we have figures here? Probably not. Okay. Alrighty. So this side. Okay, do me a favor, don't cross your legs and sit up real straight for me. Perfect. Straight ahead. Okay, got more bend here than I do here. This side's longer. So now this is where I talk to myself and tell myself what's going wrong with it. See that? Alrighty. Let's do these actually. Lift you up a lot here.
See, and I like that side that you're working on. I think that side always lays better.
Does it? It's not uncommon to have like a side that bends in, or bends correctly, and the other side kind of kicks forward, or one side goes back, one side goes under. So it's not at all uncommon to have one favored side. Oh my gosh, I just realized. So there's a guy that's been downtown for a good 15, 20 years now. And he stands down here on the corner. He sits in a wheelchair actually on the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "Hello, good Portland. Help a retired vet out."
Is that what he's saying right
And,
now?
you can hear him?
Yeah.
I forgot that he was there, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, he's still there. And it's the same monotone thing. He'll repeat it over and over and over. When I tell you 15 to 20 years easily, he's been there every day. He's down there. And I legitimately forgot about him until I'm like, I could hear in the back, "Hey, Portland, help a retired vet out." I'm like, okay, at some point, like, thanks, but also 15, 20 years, like, aren't you sick of doing that?
It's his job.
I mean, I guess so. He doesn't miss a day. He shows up. Okay. All right. Now I'm just gonna have you do me a favor and just roll your neck like this for me, all the way around, and then look straight ahead. Perfect. Okay. All right. Just don't move. You're good.
So this hair cutting studio, did you have somebody come in and design it, or did you design your stations?
This one I did actually. It was already basically an open space. We kind of came in. It was pretty much open. We came in there. We had them like close off certain areas. Like this was open, so we'd have them close it off. Put a door over here. We did a couple of things. So it was pretty much like all these lights, all that stuff was already in. So we're kind of like, all right, throw us different flooring. I'll buy the stuff and move it around, and then just create us a back room here. I need an office down there, and I had them build the desk and add this. Like I had the desk custom built, and then we brought it in. And then I had the shelving over here custom done, and then I had them add it. But everything else, all the shelves over here, I had them do.
Because it's pretty unique. Your stations are pretty unique.
Yeah, these are just like stations that honestly I just found at like a hair a place you get like hair stations.
Okay.
And they just happen to have them. I was like, oh, these are perfect because you can roll them around.
Oh,
so like
nice.
if they connect them to the ceiling, then I can move this wherever I need to move it.
Oh.
And that's like super helpful when you're trying to film stuff or whatever,
How long have you guys been in this building?
2000, so 20.
Oh, wow.
20.
Wow.
Coming in on 25 years.
Wow.
It's been a while now. Spin around here just a little bit so I can just look at this. Okay, roll your neck for me one more time.
Roll?
Yeah, just roll around and then look straight ahead again, just like you did last time. Perfect. All right. You're looking straight. Okay. I'm just going to go the other way so I can just go. One more time, just for good measure. Okay. All right. Now I need to texturize it out. Okay. Okay, so let me give you show you the back. I'll show you kind of what I was talking about. I'm gonna hand this to you again. Okay. Oh yeah, absolutely. Please do. I love those frames, by the way.
Thanks.
All right, now see like here, right? If I go like this and move it around and you roll your neck, whatever, right? And then look straight ahead. It's going to be really close to being like straight. I need to do a little bit of work right in there. It's going to be really close to being like straight. But if I comb this down perfectly, there's going to be a little bit, like see how that kind of starts to kick around? It happens on the other side too. But the minute we go like this,
It goes away.
it goes straight. So and I'm gonna do a little more work over here too, but that's the same thing that's gonna happen over here. Like when you comb this stuff down, it ends up looking like, wait a minute, what's going on there on purpose? But then when you actually move your head, then that stuff is gonna end up going just like the other stuff. So it's kind of a catch-22. And the only reason I point it out is to make people aware of it. Like if you're styling your hair and you look in the back and you go, wait a minute, why does this seem so off?
Just shake your head.
Yeah, and when you shake your head, it'll be like, you won't have that problem of that. It'll grow like this basically.
It will settle in.
Yep.
It will fall into line.
Just finish this out a little bit.
Glasses on or off?
You're good either way. Whatever makes it comfortable for you. Usually people don't like to see what I do.
Well, I don't want to.
I usually make them wait until they leave. Like, don't put your glasses on until you get in the car.
Well, I don't want them to be in your way. So
No, you're good. I'm just gonna. I don't know why I ended up needing glasses at such a young age. And like this all day long. That's weird. What would make my eyes so weird?
I'm not focused up close at all.
No, not at all. Never do that. Okay. Now we are going to go through and texturize.
Okay. Texturize with.
What I'm texturizing is just, well, this doesn't really need it. I'm just going to get some of those ends off actually. It's just like this stuff, just a little bit. So this still cuts those ends blunt, like each individual hair is cut blunt, but it breaks up just the very tips. And it's a little bit, goes a long way. All I want to do is just blend this in. So I just want to make sure that there's no like weird stuff like this or strong lines like that. I just want to like go in and texturize this so that when you comb it down, I want you just, like really, and I'll show you in the back again when we do this. When you comb it down, you should see nothing. It should just look like it's all one kind of hair, which you'll get when you comb it straight down, and that means it's blended well. But if you see like layer, 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 that means it's kind of choppy and it's going to look kind of bulky and choppy in areas.
I like the way it lays. It's
Good. If you don't, we're in trouble now.
well, no, it looks really good. That's too late.
Yeah,
Glue
like-
it back on.
Well, it's about to get awkward.
I want some hair extensions now.
I have a wig in the back. Don't even worry. It looks great. It's blue. So,
Oh, perfect. I'll fit
Yeah.
right in. Keep Portland weird.
yep, exactly.
Go down over what? By Voodoo Donuts and keep Portland weird?
Oh, yeah. Hey, that's an experience right there. Voodoo Donuts. Like, that's an actual experience. Like, have you had Voodoo Donuts?
Yes, I have.
The donuts, like, can we be honest? Like, I mean, at least I was like, the donuts aren't amazing. Like, it's not like it's the
No.
best donut I've ever had.
They're just crazy.
Yeah.
They're just crazy.
I took DIONNA when we first were dating. Like, I was like, no, but we have to like wake up at 2 a.m. and go down there, like, like 1, and go down there. Like, you have to get the full donut, like the full experience.
Yeah,
it's like standing in line with everybody that's drunk after the bars. It's totally nuts. Like,
The funniest thing I ever remember is this guy had a box around him, around his privates, and he said, I'll drop the box for $1. Drop the box for $1. And you're like, no thanks. No thanks.
I'll pay you $2 to not drop the box there, Captain. How does that sound?
Can I pay you not to? Keep Portland weird.
Yep. What's in the box?
No, please. I don't want to know.
we are.
You can edit that out.
Oh no, this is uncut. I can't edit this one. Okay, I want to show you something here real quick. So, see when we look at this area right here, right? I come this down. See how it looks like it's just kind of one individual hair. It doesn't look like there's like a bunch of choppiness.
It's very blended.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
But then when we mess it up,
you see it all.
you see that there's a lot of layering and movement going on. That's kind of what we want to end with. So that's what texturizing should do, is it should allow us to blend this in a way that it doesn't thin it out. That's not what we're using it for. I just need this to come down to look like it's just basically one. So I could look at it and go, I see something right here that to me feels a little choppy. So I just pick that up and just, okay, well, let's just break this up just a tiny bit at the ends, just so that when I comb it down, I get a little bit better blend of that, and it doesn't, see, now it's gone.
Yeah,
you know,
I saw that, yeah.
It's such a minor thing, but that alone, if I can get that to blend like that when it sticks straight like this, I know that you're still going to see layers, you're still going to see movement and texture out of it, but it's going to grow out and shape so much better. That's basically when I say texturizing, that's what we're doing.
Okay.
So if you've had texturizing in the past, or anybody, if you've had texturizing in the past, and you're like, oh, it's got too thin at the ends, whatever, that's not texturizing's fault. It was thinned out, it was done incorrectly, but this is texturizing, and it's meant to just do that.
Be blended so it all looks smooth and neat.
And cohesive, and you don't see any of the chop. Because what choppiness translates to is bulk. It ends up looking like one piece is really chunky and heavy, and I don't know why I have dog ears on the side. Because there's bulk there, and that needs to be blended out a little bit. It's a little bit choppy. You'll see a little bit layer above it or something. Something's going on there, and if I blend that out, and I comb it down and it looks all perfect, guess what's going to happen when I do this?
It's
just going to
nice,
look, it's going to have the shape where I want to have the shape. And I don't have to really do anything to it. And the best part about this is even if I've done basically nothing to that, I'm still getting the volume. This is tapered in, the volume is right here, this is come out to the side.
Yeah.
And I can mess with this. I'm still playing with it and combing through it. I'm not getting you to a place and then spraying it in, right? To make sure that it holds. The more I play with it, it's still going to do this because it's not a matter of how big we keep it. It's a matter of the volume being out of the area where I don't want it. And therefore it looks like spoiler alert, there's not a lot more volume here than you usually get on your hair.
No.
But because there's not volume here and there's just a little bit of lift here, right?
It looks
now we're
totally
getting the
different.
illusion that there is. Yeah,
It looks totally different.
And the length, we didn't change the length a lot. We're not doing a lot different with your hair. We're making some minor changes that just happen to have a huge impact. Okay.
And I love it.
Good. It's always so awkward. It's always so awkward when people. No, I go through consultations so ridiculously now to ensure that I'm I'd have to screw up pretty bad for somebody not to like it, because if you had one person unhappy, you don't do it again, man. You don't get another unhappy person. It's so embarrassing.
No, my hair will always grow, so it wouldn't matter how you cut it. My hair is always going to grow.
Sounds like a challenge.
Because I'd be back.
I had DIONNA always gives me grief because I over-explain things. She's like, you explain it so in depth, right?
He's the top of the family.
Yeah, I have to talk to everybody.
Well, it sounds like my husband.
Yeah.
He explains very well.
Alrighty. Okay, just gotta remember to flat iron that a little bit more when we dry it next time. This up a little bit. Okay.
So that's amazing.
All right, perfect. Now I'm going to do one little thing here.
Okay.
So here's something that you probably don't use, I'm assuming, on your hair, but it would work, is I'm going to use a little bit. This is a wax, okay? Sounds like a bit crazy using wax on fine hair, but the key to this, it's not even honestly so much this specific one, but the key is that it's texture, matte look. Okay, that's what you're looking for. So if you ever get a wax like this, you want to find one that says matte finish, or it says high hold, low or no shine, because they usually say high hold, high shine, high hold, medium shine, medium hold, high shine, that kind of stuff. This one says firm matte finish.
Okay.
So those are the kinds of things you're looking for. And then when you open it, see how the texture of this, that doesn't look like an oil. This is like a clay, right? A little bit goes a long way. This will give your hair a little bit of control. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this like a hairspray. I don't want your hair stiff, so that when you go like this, it doesn't move at all. but I want it to have some control so that when you bring it back off your face, it's got a little bit of grit to actually hold it back off your face.
Okay.
So you think of these as kind of a liquid hairspray. You work just a little bit through your hands, okay? So it's very faint like this. And all you're gonna do is, I would start in the back. Most of your product is on the palms of your hands, most of the surface area, right? And so you start back here and get most of the product through because you only want a little bit. But then at the very front, when I got a little bit left, I'll just work it through. See how I do this? Okay, I'm not going like this and shoving my palm against my forehead, right? But I'm just kind of working it through. You can do that a little bit, like after you've got most of it off, you're not just like, you don't start with that, but a little bit. Then you can actually go like this, and you're literally just like using this product to just get this to give it a little bit of control so that it stays a little bit easier off your face. I used a very small amount, like you could get away with more on your hair, but just wanted to show you. So that basically all I'll do is when you move it back off your face, it kind of gives it a little bit of control, or you can scrunch it into your hair a little bit if you want a little bit of texture.
Okay.
You scrunch it in and it gives your hair a little bit of movement, kind of like that, where it's like a cool kind of like texture movement and shininess. Like when I say texture, I don't mean like messiness. I mean like light pieces, dark pieces, like, you know, like color texture. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
It'll create the pieciness that actually makes it look, you know, like shows your color off more. Right, and then we just kind of bring this back off the face. We use our fingers to kind of like pull those pieces down, or we go through and we totally, you know, mess it all up, right? And you start over. And that's one of the other things too that I want to like really drive home is if you've got the shape in it and you've got a foundation for the way you're styling it, like the volume, you know, like the products is in the right area, whatever, you can play with your hair and mess it up and you're going to get a good shape out of it. Like you're going to get it back into shape. And what I'll find is the more I mess with it, the better it's going to end up looking. It's when you like get it and you're like, oh my God, I don't want to touch it now because it's perfect. That's actually the worst. Yeah. So I would like bring yours back. I'd probably just bring this back off the face like that, open you up a little bit more. I'd pull some of that down. I'd bring this back. And I'd probably leave you somewhere right about in there actually.
Yeah.
So let me give you a minute so you can see the final do. And then you go to the back. See, you still have hair. You still have a lot of beveling back here. But because we lighten some of this stuff up and because this isn't actually too tight, it doesn't connect in here and create this big amount of bulk right there.
Yeah.
And then we also, by lightening some of this up, there's just not as much hair to come down here to create that bulk. But then you still, the rest of it, I like your shoes, by the way. I just noticed them.
Thank you.
The rest of it, now roll your neck real quick for me. Just kind of this, mess it all up. Yeah, perfect. So the rest of it still has a lot of movement and texture.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you.
Okay, now, if you stuck around this long, thank you so much. I sincerely appreciate you hanging out. I really actually want to know, did you like our hair? What? And again, if you like this style of content, make sure you comment below, make sure you share this with your friends, and make sure you like it and subscribe, because it really does help the algorithm understand that this is what you want to see, and it allows me to make more of this. Now, if you want to learn more about thin, fine hair and how to style it, some very key processes that will help you get more volume and an overall more fun and youthful look, watch this video right here, because you're going to love it. And I'll see you over there.